Hello, this is EMC, and welcome back to Final Fantasy VI Brave New World. Um, Last time I forgot to do something that I said I would do, which was steal Mog's equipment. I did it though off screen before the boss battle, and I will show you real quick what it is here. It's a Mithril Pike, which is completely useless because everyone that can equip a spear will pretty much have one equipped on them already. It's only worth 1 GP, and an extra buckler, which it's again a cheap item. It used to be like a mithril shield, and the mithril pike itself would be like an upgrade spear. Now they're just basic items. You really don't need to do that, and so yeah, don't do that if you if you don't want to. It's completely unneeded, but I just wanted to show you guys that it's there. Second thing, I didn't mention a few things. I didn't like check on Locke, for example, because there was a lot to talk about, stealing and all that, and his equipment in particular. You will notice that he's wearing two dirks, which is a new thing for Final Fantasy VI. You can't do that right away, and all will be explained in the classroom. Yup. All will be explained in the beginner school. Now, we should be at full health here, so I can't really show this to you yet, but this is this heals your party to full, both HP and MP, so that's nice. So this is probably the biggest selling point of this ROM hack. Yeah, this is somewhat true. Not so because there are no wrong builds, because honestly, if you don't get a decent build, it's harder to do stuff in the game. However, you have in the future the option of resetting your levels, and until then it won't matter a huge amount. It might matter, especially with the HP stat, which we will see it's a very useful stat to have early in the game. So basically the way the game works now, and this is a spoiler, but this whole episode is gonna be a bonus episode and a spoiler, really. So where I will review all the changes. So I'll try to not worry too much about spoilers, but basically you would use it already mentioned espers, so it's not a spoiler anymore anyway. You can use esper, you can equip them, junction them to your character, and you can see there's a blank spot to the right of the character's name. That's where the esper level will show, I think. No, that's where the esper name maybe will show. I'm not sure. I'm just brain farting right now. But anyway, you can see that all characters, not now, but all characters can learn magic with a few exceptions, but we won't need to worry about that. And the way they used to do it to learn magic in the vanilla version was you would equip an esper, and each random battle that you fight will give you a small amount of points that would contribute to you learning the set of spells that the specific esper that you have equipped was able to teach you. They would come at different rates of learning. Some spells you would learn fast, some you would learn more slowly, and so on. Also, every time you would level up with an esper equipped, you would gain a specific boost to one of your stats, be one of your offensive stats, but also HP and or MP. What that means is that every level that you would do until the point of hitting the espers that you wanted to get the stats that you wanted was almost wasted, and this kind of mechanic encourage the more like hardcore player to really go out of their way and micromanage all the levels, try to like be as low level as possible, even doing like lowest level gains, just so they could have like a perfect game file in the end with the stats as high as they could possibly be. This is no longer the case in this mod because the Esper system has been completely changed. You can still equip Espers like normally. You can still learn spells from them, but you do that manually. The points you gain from random battles kind of stack and then accumulate, and then you can use those points to learn any spell from any Esper that one specific character is able to equip. Which brings me to the next point. Before you could equip all Espers, meaning you could learn all spells for all characters, and now it's not the case anymore. Each character has their own unique set of spells because each character has a different combination of what Espers they can equip, making them very different. Like some of them will be more like, you know, status element masters, some other would be healers, some other would be offensive casters, and so on and so forth. For example, Terra, she's, you know, the magical girl and stuff, so she can do most of everything when it comes to magic, obviously. But Locke is a different story. He's a thief. He has never, you know, been in contact with magic. So what he will learn, for example, is a bunch of healing spells and a bunch of offensive spells, but a very selected amount. No like useful status elements or buffs or anything like that. Each character is specialized this way, and what this means is that you can and will utilize their own special perks rather than just focusing on magic after a certain, you know, point in the game, which is great. It's just great. So that's covered. I have like no negatives for this. This is like the best thing this mod has ever done, in my opinion. It's just, it makes sense. It's how it should have worked from the beginning. Like, this is the only thing that you cannot criticize the mod for. Some other stuff, difficulty, equipment, whatever, some liberties with the you know, script and so on, maybe that you could criticize. But this one is just like, it's pretty much objectively better. It's just, you know, it's good. I like it. Let's talk about this guy. To this guy. Oh, save points. Yeah, tents got removed. They used to be an item that lets you recover your whole party at full HP and MP for like no cost, and now that's gone. So you need your consumable items, which, you know, it's good. They're cheap, but you have reason to use them now, so that's great. Also, game over means you're back to the last save point, which brings me back to save states. Honestly, if this is your first time, do not try to cheat. Like, you want to kill all bosses legit, because that's the whole fun. You know, don't save state the crap out of bosses, please. But if you're in a difficult area, I would save state between random encounters, honestly, because especially in a blind playthrough where you don't know what's gonna happen to you, having to face like a party wipe when you just played for like half an hour and having to redo all that again, honestly, I think it's better to just use save states for that. You know, I'm not saying I recommend them, but I could understand you perfectly. And if you do that, and since I'm doing you know, recorded playthrough, I would much rather abuse this system of save states. Therefore, I don't have to do too much backtracking when I fail, and I can just resume right away from, like, you know, before the previous battle that just destroyed me happened. So that's why you will see me use save states. I'm not that good at editing. I don't have good software. I don't know how to do stuff. So that will be my editing tool. Let's just call it like that. Instead of like me cutting and snipping my failures, you'll get to see them, but I will recover from them fairly quickly. I think that's just fair. This guy. Yeah, you can do this if you want, and it's pretty nice. Just, yeah, Exactly. Do not overdo it, because you need levels in this game. You don't need to be super high level, but levels do matter a lot. You will find that if you have troubles, one single level up on your party might change everything. Might turn one shots into almost one shots, which saves a ginormous amount of turns. Recovering from them. Like if you have to ref somebody and then it gets killed immediately after, and so on, you can get into an endless loop that will eventually cause a game over. So level ups, if you feel like the game is getting too difficult, get a few level ups, whatever, it's not that slow anyway. Okay, this is also important, which is also why I didn't want to talk about stealing and stuff. You can only steal from humans now. I mean, you can steal from other stuff, but it's not gonna end well, and they usually are not going to have good items for you. So yeah, listen to this guy. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, this I mentioned this already, so that's great. You can just open everything. Let's see what's in here. I think it used to be like some Lobo, like the dog person thing. Now they changed it. Anyway, let's try stealing from this guy. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, shit, we couldn't steal. Come on. I'm gonna try this again. it needs to work, like, immediately. Come on. Oh, come on, really? This is just a fan. I need to show this off. Come on, why is this so hard? Stealing is usually very easy in this game. Apparently, I'm just getting terribly unlucky. I've always done this on my first try. Anyway, you get a gun pod, which is basically useless, and you get countered with Snoo Snoo, which obviously causes death. I mean, what else would it cause? So, and enemies tend to do that a lot, especially at the beginning of the game. Not later on, really. Not too much, because there's also weapons to do auto steal and stuff. It would be unfair if everything countered steal, so that's okay just for the start, just to tell you, do not fuck with stealing. Yeah, that's okay. Let's check this guy. Oh, dried meat. Dried meat is the new tonics, and tonics and potions are now much better. Like tonics, I believe, restore half your HP, and potions restore 3/4 of HP. They are expensive, obviously. I think we have a potion. No, we don't. We have a tincture though. Okay, well, anyway, dried meat. It's very cheap to buy. You will want to have a large stock of these items because it saves you a ton of MP at the start, and you can see that we're pretty limited when it comes to MP, really. So that's what you want to do. And items, yeah, they're good. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is also important. Optimize used to basically equip on you whatever item. Oh yeah, well, let's just cover this slowly. Optimize, oh my god, it is so long. Anyway, optimize would just put the best equipment on you in terms of their either attack or defense, depending on what weapon, or weapon or armor. And that would put some specific items on top all the time that weren't exactly what you wanted. It just wasn't good. You don't want to optimize that way. You want to optimize by thinking about what would be good for you on that specific situation. So I'm okay with this change. I think it's nice. They also said, let's see. Okay, this one. Let's see what's next. Yeah, you can check every piece of equipment in the inventory, and they will tell you what they do in decent detail. Let's see. This is important. I think it was true in the vanilla version for everything except for magic bonus, which contributed even further to making magic so OP in the game. So you cannot stack 25% damage with anything else, or if you have I don't know, 25% and 50% or whatever, only the highest bonus will count. They will not turn into 75%, so that's okay. This is good. This makes relics that you normally would not buy decent. If you're not sure what you want to equip on, just put something that boosts the stats that you use. Anyway, this is good. This basically makes some characters, they base their survivability on dodging stuff. And magic evasion is the equivalent of physical evasion, just, on magic. Anyway, this is, just basic stuff. I don't think it changed from the game. This guy tells you how to ride a chocobo. Apparently you can do barrel rolls on chocobos, that's new. Let's go. This guy, I forgot what he says. Oh, okay, this is just the guy we met outside. Great, let's see. Oh, stamina attribute. Okay, helps you evade status elements set by enemy attacks. Also guards against attack that steal HP, blah blah blah. Basically, yeah, it also increases the amount of HP you gain from regen and reduces the HP drain from sap. The fun thing is that stamina, the only thing that it would do in the original version of the game was increase regen, like how much HP you gain each turn from regen spell. Now, or regen, I don't know how to, anyway, sap, which was like the opposite of regen, was also had an increased amount of, the more stamina you had, the more damage you would take from sap ticks as well as regen ticks, which was like stupid. It made stamina like a really useless stat, and now it does a lot of stuff. It also raised the frequency of random counterattacks, provided that you have a relic or a piece of equipment that enables you to counterattack stuff. You will not just counterattack stuff if you have high stamina. You need something that enables your character to counterattack. But then the stamina will affect the chance of that happening, so that's great. There are stamina attacks, basically. Instead of using magic or vigor, which are your like magical and physical stat boosters, some attacks are just based on stamina. They're usually good, most of them. Although they're like, yeah, okay, let's rewind a bit. They're usually like weaker alternatives to like your vigor and magic attacks, and that's because otherwise everybody would just run stamina because it's just so convenient. Reduces damage, gives you another like evasion check, let's call it like that, for status elements and HP draining spells and so on. It's just an amazing defensive stat. Having it be the best offensive stat would be a stupid idea. So what stamina does, it kind of like defensively, outside of that, what I just read now, is it reduces the magical damage that you take. That has nothing to do with like stuff that ignores defense. It simply like takes your minimum and maximum damage that you could take from an attack and lowers the maximum by a bit. So the more stamina you have, the more you can lower this maximum damage. And also it lowers the minimum damage, so effectively you are reducing. So for example, you have a magical attack that would do like 1,000 damage to you with no stamina, like I don't know, like 600 to 1,000 damage to you with no stamina. You put some stamina on, then it would turn to like, I don't know, 580 to 800, which is nice. And then more and more stamina, maybe at the end you will take like, I don't know, 550 damage instead of 600 to 1,000, which, it's good. So stamina is a good defensive stat. Vigor increases your physical damage and your physical defense, and it works in the same way that stamina works for magical damage. And magic power just increases your magic damage. It's just for that. The formula of vigor of like physical attacks has been changed to make vigor useful. Before it was like really almost negligible. You could have like 20 vigor or 120 vigor and it would not make any like tangible difference, especially at high levels, I believe. Now it actually does, and it's a pretty like linear equation when it comes to like how much you gain. So there are like diminishing returns, I would say. For example, if you have a character like Locke that in the future will be able to boost both his vigor and speed, it's not, in my opinion, advisable to just go full on vigor. Past a certain point, having more speed will give you like more damage over time, and so on. So you want to balance those things out. Speed is also the same, really. You don't want to have like all speed in pretty much any situation. It's not a good idea to have just so much speed that it's not even funny, because boosting your damage will give you better results, and so on. So that's covered. Let's see. And this so far is all things that I like. They all make sense and they're really nicely made. So let's talk to this guy. This is pretty much, I think, the same stuff as the old game, except for rods. Rods consume MP now, and basically deal a crit all the time if you have MP to use. The random spell cast that comes from Rod, for example, you have Fire Rod, you can randomly cast an elemental, a fire elemental spell on the enemy. It's pretty strong because it basically crits as well. And it is also affected by the row. If you use a Rod from the back row and cast a spell from the regular Rod attack, it will do less damage. So you want to be in the front row if you want to use Rods effectively. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, you can use the Rods in battle. Let's just put it this way: the original version of this game was Rods were broken. They would do massive damage. And you saw Terra, right? Terra gains a cool little ability later in the game that I won't spoil. Anyway, using that ability, you could have like a level 5 Terra two-shot a boss that you're meant to fight, I don't know, a level 20. Two-shot by just throwing 2 rods at them. You could one-shot a whole bunch of... That's a level 5, a level 15 or whatever. Terra could just destroy that thing in one hit. A lot of bosses, especially those with elemental weakness, could be destroyed by rods. So I'm okay that they nerfed them. They now just basically make so that you are casting the spell. I think it would be better if you could like add a defense ignoring effect to breaking rods without increasing the damage. I think that would be nice because they're pretty expensive, and this basically makes so that you never want to throw rods really. And defense ignoring effect would be like nice in a few situations. I don't think it would make them broken. Outside of that, I think it's a good change, and a needed change at that. You will soon see that you can throw items with certain characters, and what they do is they ignore defense. When you throw stuff, the damage is just defense ignoring, which is nice, and I think it will be it will make sense to do that with rods as well. But anyway, let's continue on. Okay, katanas and spear can be used with 2 hands, and cloth, knives, and other stuff that makes sense that you would be able to use it in one hand allow the use of a second weapon. This is why Locke can dual wield right now without any extra piece of equipment that lets you do that. You get a slight drop in DPS, so if you're waiting like 2 of the same weapon, in total it will be 75% plus 75%. That means 150 basically. However, if those weapons give you like stat boosts or cool abilities and stuff, both will stack. So it's always better to dual wield than it is to just use one weapon if you're going on the offense. Pure offense, let me specify. Gauntlet, Genji glove. Yeah, Are you on the dope, son? I don't know where that's from. Anyway, both the Gauntlet and the Genji Glove, basically they were Relic in the vanilla version. They did what, they did this kind of stuff. Genji Glove lets you use 2 items, and it also let you, it would decrease their damage though by 25%. I believe it was the same. And the Gauntlet would let you wield one weapon in 2 hands, so you would still not use a shield, for 50% more damage. Those things are gone now, and it's a good thing because there's a lot of weapons that kind of ignore this damage penalty in the vanilla version of the game, and you would make some pretty nasty combos with like fixed damage weapons hitting 8 times. It was ridiculous, so it's good that it got like, not really nerfed, but that the broken stuff got taken away while the good stuff is more accessible. So that's nice. What do you have to say? Paintbrushes, we don't need to worry about that too much. And yeah, you need this is stuff that we don't need to worry about, but it's overall a good change. Sketch, you don't know what it is right now if you haven't played the game. It's much better, and it doesn't destroy your game whenever you try to use it, so that's awesome. Did I talk to you? Oh yeah, this guy I think is identical to vanilla version. It just tells you about status and hammer time. Oh my god, you don't want to do that, sorry. Anyway, let's keep going. Yeah, sorry for that's the worst person to talk twice to, I think. Anyway, okay, this explains defend and row commands. Defend is very useful in certain situations, obviously, and good thing is you can just get your turn while defending, and until you do something else you will still be defending, so you don't have to constantly spam defend if you want to have a character defend. They can have their turn ready, which is nice. Let's keep carrying on. Yeah, okay, yeah, I think I covered all this except for a few things. Text with fear. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the one thing that I did not cover is that, well, wait, did I not? No, I covered defense. No, never mind. Yeah. Let's see. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. This teaches you how to multi-target stuff. You can press L or R. And there are other commands. There are like basically these two actually, and nothing else, that are not spells and that can be either single or multi-targeted. So that's nice. I mean, there are also, well, rages. A lot of them can be like either single or multi-targeted, but I believe they're all spells though. So never mind. Okay, so some attacks that do like AoE damage will always do the same damage regardless of one or multiple targets. Some others instead will hit harder if there's only one target, double damage to be exact. So let's see. Oh yeah, you can press X or Y to just, if 2 characters have a turn ready, you press those and you can, move to the next character, so you don't have to like waste a turn defending if you don't want to do an action with that one character specifically yet. Also running away. Running away is harder in this game. Faster characters like Locke, will run away easily, quote unquote. While slow characters will pretty much sit there forever. There's a few characters that you just do not want to run with. There's an item that lets you run from battles, and if you're in a hurry and you feel like you have your levels and your GP and don't want to like fight a whole bunch of random battles, buy a bunch of that item that we will get to see later, and it will make your life easier. Right. Spears now, I believe they used to auto counterattack in this game. Now they changed that. Anyway, blah blah blah. Now they auto cover. So that's interesting, but you have to be in the front row to cover stuff, so you can't abuse being in the back row and getting the damage reduction while covering, which is good because you have an option to equip a spear without randomly covering your allies, which if you're built like a DPS and not like a tank, kind of causes your death really fast. So that's a good idea. You can change which row a character occupies, blah blah blah, in the menu screen. Yeah, I think I showed that off. Yeah, it's not as good as it used to be, only 25%. Before it used to be half damage, but it's still nice. And now everything that is supposed to be like physical and melee is halved if you're in the back row, which makes complete sense, to be like, you know, not abused. But there are a few things that, you know, are not affected by row. We will see them soon. Anyway, blah blah blah. All damage is magical. Okay, that's interesting. Basically, yeah, okay, space limitation. Anyway, all damage is magical, unless stated. Obviously, physical attacks are physical, but every special skills and whatnot, unless it says physical, they're magical. It doesn't mean that though they're necessarily affected by your magic stat. They might be just magical attacks that are based off completely different things, like your HP or your I don't know, your stamina. Oh, we already seen that. So yeah, bunch of stuff to learn. You can pause and read everything if you want. I'm just going over this pretty quickly. Anyway, let's see. This is a big thing. So yeah, some enemies and most bosses, yeah, they can do that, and it's annoying. Okay, so this is also important. Let's get, you know, talk about this after we're done reading. Yup, they are. A lot of enemies are set to counter like a few actions that your party can perform. For example, we have read about blitzes and tool and magic and so on. And so if you use those specific actions on them, they will usually have a pretty nasty counter attack. So it's a lot of trial and error. However, a lot of enemies, like, they come like recurringly as like palette swaps, well, one might call them. They're just like improved version of the same kind of enemy. Like, you know, we will see improved little guys that throw pipe wrenches at you. We will see improved rats, and improved dogs, improved guards, and improved mammoth. And if you remember kind of what works and what doesn't work, or what you should not use on those kind of like enemy families, you will be okay. There won't be that much to memorize. It's just a learning process at the start mainly. After that, it will be like a lot less punishing, because you will know more about the game. So you need to pay attention. That's true. But I'm okay with paying attention instead of like this mindlessly smashing one button and killing stuff. So yeah, counterattacks are annoying. Like there isn't almost any death counter really, except for a few enemies, those soldiers. Oh my god. Anyway, but enemies can still counter you if you kill them with an attack. Like if you kill them and they were supposed to counter that attack, first they will counter you and then they will die. That's not a death counter, it's just a counter. So pay attention to the counters. They're a huge part of the game mechanics. Let's see. I think sometimes it's a bit overdone, but for the most part it adds like a nice, you know, flavor to the game, you know, something else to think about when battling, which is nice. Let's see, Runic is really nice, although I haven't really found a lot of use for it really. especially for a specific item that you get at some point later in the game. Let's just not spoil stuff, but yeah, I don't know. A lot of enemies don't really cast spells, and those that do, usually the character that comes with this runic thing sometimes needs to be like ready on standby for healing and stuff. So it's hard to just waste a turn using runic, and it's a gamble because they won't like consistently use magic on you. But you'll see. It doesn't work on blue magic, so you can have a combo of using your runic with your character and magic that is not conventional, like stuff that comes under the magic menu, basically. And you can, for example, heal yourself without causing the runic ability to just suck the attack and convert it into MP. But you'll see more about runic later. There's no need to dwell on it. Float is good. It just makes you float, makes you immune to earthquake, like good old Pokemon. It does not make you immune to all ground element attack though, and it makes you immune to some non-ground element attack that are just that only affect the floor. Like there's like some tidal wave thing, like some avalanche, ice attack, and so on. They're all hitting the ground, so if you're floating you'll dodge those even though they're not earth elements, so it's not related. Slow and sap are pretty much the bread and butter of this game when it comes to status elements. They work on almost everything. Like if they don't work on a boss, it's because yes, they have either auto haste or auto regen, which are like the opposite status of slow and sap. So slow kind of reduces the enemy turns by a lot. Like I believe it's 33% less turns, which means that the different, and haste is 33% more, like faster turns, which means what does it mean? Oh yeah, that if you have haste on, you will be twice as fast that if you have slow on. So if a boss is casting haste on himself, it means it will just get double turns if you slowed him previously, and it will just wail on you. So you want those slow status and sap status. Sap is just nice for it's good because a lot of fights you will be figuring out what to do to effectively deal with that boss. So if you have something that slowly takes away at the enemy's HP while you're healing, defending, trying to understand how things work, it's really nice. It adds up over time in long fights, and there's a fair amount of long fights in this game, especially first time you're fighting them. So those are very important status elements. There are other status elements. I think we can just talk to everybody here. Let's see. Yeah, that's what clear does. I could not explain it better myself. However, this is a good change. You could basically use this clear / vanish status on bosses, and it would just bypass any and all checks for like magic immunity. So you would always hit anything, including instant death attacks, which means you could just break everything, just vanish them and instant death them. Final boss, who cares? So that's gone now, and it's great. Yeah. Bolt and water are effective against mechanical enemies. Bolt is effective against flyers. It's stuff. Ice is like tends to be good against all reptiles. That's true for like every Final Fantasy game ever, I think. And it's not. I think it's the element that has the least amount of weaknesses to exploit, but it's a good neutral element. However, a lot of enemies tend to be immune to it. You just saw that on Narshe. A lot of ice enemies obviously won't care about ice. Earth and wind are two elements that I tend to not use that much. They're very niche elements, Anyway, I'll talk about why I'm not a fan of those soon, but I don't think it's important right now. yeah, fractional damage like demi, quarter, and so on is really good usually. But they come with earth elements, so if the enemy is immune to earth, they're immune to fractional damage. Anyway, let's see. Holy elemental spells obviously work from undead, also fire. Okay, yeah, this is why I hate using most wind and earth attacks. Like 9 out of 10 of these attacks will be multi-elemental, and there is a huge chance of these attacks being just completely ineffective because, like, most likely you have like facing, I don't know, you're facing 4 different enemies or something. I don't think there's anything more than 3 different enemies, but yeah, 3 different enemies, and like one will resist, I don't know, you have a wind-water attack combo. One will resist wind, one will resist water, and you're basically hitting only 1 out of 3 enemies with that huge AoE attack that's supposed to be good. So that makes things like a bit too complicated. I think they overdid a bit with the immunities. Like, I would be fine if a lot of enemies have like half wind, half earth damage. That way it's not as annoying to just really go full trial and error trying to figure out what's weak to what, and if they're resistant to the secondary element of your spells. I don't know. But the good thing is, when wind and earth spells are useful and work, they're really strong. So yeah, let's talk about Morph. Morph used to be a weirdo kind of ability that would basically recharge over time. Like, you need to fight a bunch of random battles, and the more you fight, the longer this command would last in battle when you use it. Now it's just a toggle on and off, so that's good. And it has been nerfed, however, compared to the vanilla version, because now you take double damage from everything. So the fix to that is raising Terra's stamina, which honestly you will do, because like 90% of her stuff gives her stamina, so one way or another you will raise her stamina, so you won't really see double damage unless you're just at the... Oh wait, I just spoiled stuff. Oh, whatever, I don't need to worry about this, right? And this is a spoilery thing. Yeah, anyway, yeah, as I was saying, you will raise Terra's stamina naturally, so it's okay, really. I think Morph is awesome in this game, and the penalties that come with it are justifiable because of how strong it is, so I'm fine with it. It's great. When you need to use Morph, it will do good work for you. It will melt some bosses down very easily, so good stuff. Good stuff. Fun thing is, like, you used to, basically the only downside of Morph was you would take more damage from like poison and other damage overtime attacks in the vanilla version, while taking double damage from heals as well, so getting healed more, like regen and normal heals. Now you get healed more. That still is true. So basically, if you build your Terra to like have enough, defense and HP to survive one attack under Morph, and she has regen on, she will probably recover back to full HP before she has a chance to get attacked again. So that's pretty broken under the right circumstances. But if she gets one shot, then the fun's over, obviously. So Morph is great. I think I need to talk to you. Reflect is a thing that I have not used much, I must admit. There must be some good uses for this spell, but I don't know. It feels like a waste of time pretty often. Anyway, blah blah blah. Re-rise. No need to worry about re-rise for now, but it's the same old. Undead are immune to most status effects. Yup. You can, I believe, stop most of the undead enemies except for like mini bosses and bosses. So if you want to go with the status route, just use stop, and everything else won't really work on them. Outside of slow and sap, that just work on everything pretty much. Firehole. Yeah, wasn't there another guy that said that about killing undeads with fire and holy? Whatever. No, I don't think this is just the only thing that you need to know about this is that now physical evasion works, and as a consequence, being blinded also works, as opposed to the vanilla version. So if you're blind, your hit rate is cut in half, and you will not hit crap basically with physical attacks. And yeah, all the other status just do what they're supposed to do. You will see them in action very soon. So it's interesting. Rage. I mean, yeah, that was a lot of stuff that we covered. It took a long time, but I think it makes for a nice bonus episode. So I'm okay with this. Let's see. Overall, of all these changes, especially these that we have just read about, everything, either I'm completely fine with it or I'm like 90% fine with it. Like, oh, maybe you could tweak here and there. Like, for example, what I don't like about spears and auto cover is that if you, for some reason, and there are reasons actually, if you want your jumper to also be in the front row for a few attacks that require front row to do effective damage, but at the same time you have like a cover tank on the side that kind of protects the team, you cannot use spears anymore, because there's a good chance that your DPS kind of frail, with offensive gear on and not defensive gear on, will just jump at random attacks that are meant to be taken by the tank because they also have a chance to cover. And that's not fun. It doesn't end well for you usually. So but I guess there wasn't many other ways to deal with this. So yeah. So basically, jump works from the back row. If you want to use jump and, for example, tools, you have to choose. You can't really use both effectively, because if you do, you will be stuck at the front without a shield and the chance of covering other allies, which probably means you will die. So I don't like that too much, that you really have to build your jumpers to pretty much only jump and nothing else. And that coupled by the fact that I'm not a huge fan of jumping, even though it's pretty damn good in this version of the game, I'm not gonna lie, makes jumping like not too appealing to me. But it is strong. It's just like the closest thing to just mashing one button and seeing insane damage come out that you will see in this game. Jumping can be really, really nice if used in the right situations. So I think this covers it. I am pleased with pretty much everything. I haven't talked about like other kinds of changes, especially the script, and I will take a few minutes to just cover that real quick. First off, I'm Italian. I'm not native English, and the first time I've played this game, I was pretty young. However, I played a translated version in Italian, so I really have zero, nostalgia goggles when it comes to Ted Woolsey's translations for old Final Fantasy games. They are not part of my childhood. I played this game first in Italian, then I played the GBA version, the advanced version, which, by the way, for the Europeans, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good. The music quality was terrible, but all the bugs that the US version had, they got fixed, or at least most of them. So that's a decent version where like physical evading works, translation is pretty nice, and so on. I don't have any issue with removing some of Woolsey's stuff. Like, without the nostalgia goggles, you just notice that this is one guy that's really talented that basically has to work around all the censorship that went from Japan to the US release, and has to try and put clever stuff to not say specific things that you know you can't say, at least you couldn't say in the 90s in America when it came to video games. So all the holy spell they would call Pearl because holy religion, EU, all that stuff, and also any mature stuff had to be cut out, changed, censored, and so on. So I appreciate his work a lot. However, I'm not attached to it as other people's are. So I don't have many issues with how they handle this. This is closer to the advanced version than to the basically it takes what in the opinion of the creators of the mod was the best Woolsey lines, and combines them with the advanced version of the game, which is a lot more faithful to the original, or it just takes the source of the dialogues from the original version. I'm not sure, but it's almost the same, honestly. I'm fine with this. There are a lot of weird. You saw some jokes, kind of game, movie, pop culture references. They are usually not there during the main plot. You have to go out of your way and talk to like NPCs and stuff to start seeing those. So I'm okay with the presence of those. Some of them are, a bit, I don't know, not necessary. Most of them are good. I'm not saying this is perfect at all, and there's some heavy language. I believe this game had even more like pretty strong language, but it got kind of toned down. Yeah, sometimes it tends to be it tends to like break character a bit and stuff like that, but I think that nobody would be playing this version of the game if they hadn't played the original already. So if you just try to like not think too much about some of the extra flavor put on some side dialogues, not really important stuff for the most part, you will enjoy this game no matter what. And yeah, but I still think that if this was like made a bit better, and there's also a few things that are completely not related to heavy language at all, but just like let's see, there's a certain character called General Leo and a certain other character in our main cast that will have in this version of the game. Basically it is hinted that they had like some deep connection, like both generals and both fought some battles together, not love or anything weird like that, just they were both, I don't know, had strong camaraderie or whatever the term is, but you're supposed to deduce that because like there isn't a single line before a certain series of events happens in the game that hints you that those two characters had any sort of connection whatsoever. So it would be nice, since they've gone and changed so much stuff, to put like one line somewhere to say like, oh, remember that battle or something. I don't know, I'm terrible with these things, but something to just give the players the hint that they are somehow close friends or something. That would be nice, because it would make all the scenes that happen later make a lot more sense. Like, you have to imagine that these two people were very close friends and companions in battles and all that, but just one line would be nice somewhere. I don't know where. I guess I could think of where, but yeah. So I think that some of the additions that they made are good in potential, but they're not perfect, and they could be made perfect. And a few of the heavy language parts could be toned down a bit. Not all of them, because like a good 90% of them I'm okay with. I think it fits. There's like that 10% though that kind of makes you cringe a bit. outside of that, no complaints. And this has been going for far too long, so I'll just cut it here, and I'll see you on the next real episode. Bye bye.